Well, hello, YouTube. For once, I'm not in my car, I'm in my bed. Well, actually, for a reason, I'm not being lazy. I have severe back pain right now. So I have a heating pad that I'm laying on to try to make it possible for me to walk. Anyway, I wanted to make a video addressing an issue I think a lot of musicians have, which is lack of planning or forethought. And by that, uh, I mean this. So here we are in the pandemic, and it's obviously affected most people's ability to earn money, make a living, what have you. And musicians, you know, since so much of what we do, I'm saying we as if I'm still performing, but I still perform here and there. But anyway, so much of what we do relies on being able to be in the public, which is not possible right now. However, there's another side to this. This craziness isn't going to last forever. At some point, uh, you know, live performances will be a thing again. What are you going to do when that's available? Well, I talked to a couple of musician friends of mine, and their answers were all the same. Uh, and it left me shaking my head. Their answer was, "Oh yeah, just call up some restaurants and bars, try to book some gigs, and get things going again." Uh, well, that's the game plan that I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of other musicians have. So, like, how are you going to stand out? What are you going to do that's different than everybody else who is thinking the same thing? Uh, and like, have you thought about some of the conditions that will be present? For example, if you're if you're a musician that performs in a lot of restaurants and bars, well, that was restaurants and bars one of the hardest hit industries in this time. Are they really going to have a budget for you? And even if they do, uh, how what's going to be what are they going to pay you? Is it going to be something that you can manage? Are you going to be able to have your whole band, or is it just going to be a solo thing? Are you prepared for a solo act? Are do you have a contingency plan to uh, uh, help supplement what you'll probably lose from income from doing those sorts of gigs? Do you have other kinds of gigs in mind? Have you started? Okay. Here's another. If I was a musician, if I was an active and full time musician now, like I was in the past, right now, what I would be doing, I'd be on Google finding all kinds of concert series that normally would have happened. Every town, every county, and they all have some kind of cyclical concert series during certain seasons. Be it fall or spring or summer or whatever. And I would be contacting those people saying, "Hey, what's your plan? Do you plan to go forward with your series next year, or in the next 6 months, or what have you? And if so, is it too early for me to provide you with my information? Uh, or if they're not taking info, I would even just try to keep an open line of communication and just continually contact them, and just to stay on their radar, so that it would be easier to get those sorts of gigs later. Hopefully you see the point I'm trying to make. The When I think about my friends who are or were musicians, and the difference between how I treated things and how they treated things. Their question to me was always, "How do you get so many gigs?" Or and it's all about preparation, and you have to treat it like a business. Now, musicians don't want to hear that. I understand, because it's supposed to be all about the music, but it can't be about the music if you can't eat. I mean, you at some point in time, you've got to make some money, and the money is not just going to be, you know, uh, thrown at you. You got to create conditions or understand where it's coming from so you can take advantage of that. So, so what's your plan? My bigger point is you should be planning right now for what's going to be coming up in the very near future. Near enough, anyway. To me, okay, as a former performer, oh man, say that 10 times fast. Um, you know, for me, I was always thinking 3 to 6 months down the road. At a minimum. At least that's to me that's the immediate future, because most of my gigs were ones that I had to book several months in advance. For example, like when I was on tour, I wasn't just touring. While I was on the road, I was already booking the next tour or even the tour after that. At the height of things, um, I was about a year and a half on average ahead of where I was at that point in time in terms of what I was booking and planning and stuff. And sometimes I would even think like 5 years down the road, and I throw myself what ifs, you know. And in fact, I think that helped me when I lost my sponsors in '08 when the economy tanked. Because, if you saw some of my previous videos, I mentioned I had sponsors and they were both sort of like financial institutions. And guess what blew up in '08? So, anyway, uh, well, where was I going with that? Oh, yeah, right. So, I had done what if scenarios. What if I lose my sponsors? What will I do? Because everything was going great. The ball was really rolling, and uh, I really didn't think I had anything to worry about. But see, that's when you do have something to worry about. When things start getting really, really comfortable, that's when something happens, and that's when it happens, that's when it affects you the most. So I thought, what if I lose it? And I came up with some ideas, and one of them was I would tour more with the educational stuff than the concert stuff. And sure enough, '08 came. I lost my sponsors because of the tank and the economic collapse then. And fortunately, because I had thought ahead of time, I was able to pivot relatively easily. So, so what's your plan? I mean, the pandemic will end at some point, and the vaccines are already kind of making their way into the public. So sooner or later, we're going to start being able to go out in crowds again. So how are you going to handle that? And not just my advice would be not to just think of it from your perspective as a performer. Look at it as someone who owns a venue, and you're going to be hiring artists. What would you do? How would you afford the artists? Uh, is there even a need? Right? I mean, maybe some places are like, right now I just need to get back on my feet and you know, um get that going first, and I'll hire artists later. Or because that's the thing, like, us performers, like we would think like, okay, well, we're there to help bring in more people or help people stay there. And that's the general idea, but not every venue owner thinks that way. Especially now, like I said, when they've lost so much income, and the, there's going to be tons of musicians hungry for gigs, but there's going to be far fewer venues to support that. What I mean by that, well, already, I mean, when I was active, there was already not enough venues for how many musicians were out there trying to get gigs. Um, but now, so many restaurants and other venues that would support music have closed for good. But from what I'm seeing, at least anecdotally, oh, you know what word I'm trying to say. I'm too tired and I'm in too much pain. But when I look on the internet and I see the communities of musicians, it doesn't seem to be that fewer musicians out there. Like the community's about as strong as it's ever been. So who's going to get the gigs? You know, and if everybody's going to get a gig, how much you going to get paid? Because there's only going to be so much in the way of resources, but there's going to be a lot of people fighting for those resources. So, in closing, I would say make a plan and try to figure out how will you separate yourself from the others. What kind of game plan can you come up with to address any contingencies, or things that can pop up. So it's funny. Actually, this will be my closing thought, and maybe I'll make a separate video. I keep saying that, separate videos, but my thought is this: like, I used to when I was performing, I'd have parents come up to me all the time, and say, they have their kid in kid in tow, and usually it was someone who's about ready to go to college, and it was always the same question. The question was, so is it possible to make a living with music? I already know what the answer they were hoping I would say, well, no, but from my perspective and my experience, no would have been a lie. I was doing fine. Uh, but not everybody right off the bat can expect the sorts of I guess expect to that they'll be successful, because not everybody has, I think, the tools you need to really succeed, because it's not just about being a good performer. There's other things involved. And so what I would tell those parents were, well, truthfully, you know I would, if I had it to do over again, because I mentioned, I was a marine bio major, but then, towards the end, I switched my major to music. So I said, if I had to do it again, and I knew I was going to be a professional musician, and that's what I want to do for a career, I would not major in music. And I said I would not major in music. I would minor in music, but major in marketing. So the parent would say, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, backup plan." I said, "No, not a backup plan, because if you're an artist, and in particular, that means you're self-employed. So you're going to need to know how to market yourself. So that's the first thing, and then the music stuff, you don't really need to major in it. You can minor in it and get all the benefits that a major would provide, in that you get to network with other musicians, and you learn certain things that maybe would take you years to learn on the road in terms of theory and, stuff. And actually now, now that things have happened the way they have, I would go so far to say that you probably should have a double major, which would be marketing and business administration or management, and then minor in music. But this video's already getting long, so I'll stop there. I'll leave it for another one. And anyway, so musicians out there, what's your plan? Bye.